so she'll take over from me whenever she gets here. Let's welcome everyone, and let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand if you are able, or one second.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thanks a lot. We have a slight change in our agenda order. So the first thing up is our election report from Chair Dawn.
Oh, thank you.
Introduction of the new District 4 Commissioner.
Yes, thank you very much. So we had a CAC District 4 special election on February 22nd with early voting on February 18th. There were two candidates, Andy Jurgensen and Angela Saucer. Great turnout, 81 votes cast. Voters were very enthusiastic. They heard about the election through their Facebook site. A lot of flyers from the candidates, a lot of personal campaigning. Angela Saucer is the winner. She received 48 votes, and Amy Jurgensen received 33 votes. Do need to note, like a little asterisk on the voting side, we rejected quite a few voters. They were so enthusiastic they came from other districts. So when we validated them, like quite a few, 5 or 6 were actually a lot of districts won folks. So we do check. We have a map there. We check online when in doubt. The one vote snuck through from Tulane Road. One voter living on Tulane Road, the Torrance. In the moment, I think we thought it was Torrance. So obviously did not affect the election with that margin, but wanted to put that in the record.
Great.
And so Angela is now seated here, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome, Angela. All right. Next up is district updates from all commissioners. So we'll just go around. Commissioner Morris.
Mark Moritz, District 6. The only update is that I met with the scouts from CAC 3074. They invited me to talk about my role as a commissioner. I explained I was not elected. I just showed up. I was the only one that showed up. And the importance of showing up for making a difference, and how I gave examples of what we do here in the commission. And I just used the example of the neighbor that we had, where the neighbor was trying to shoot deer with bow and arrow or a crossbow. How that neighbor was able to work together with other neighbors and people from the city and the Clinteville Area Commission to hopefully put an end to that. And next Area Commission meeting in April, they'll come to the pledge.
Thanks. Commissioner Miller.
Yeah, Drew Miller, District 9, nothing to report.
Thanks. Commissioner Sauer.
Angela Saucer, District
Saucer.
4, nothing to report, but happy to be on the commission.
Josh Hively, District 8. Nothing district specific to report, but I did attend a meeting last month. Marysville is working on some legislation around ADUs. I have a friend who owns one of the few ADUs in Marysville, so he invited me to the meeting. So it was interesting to see a more rural perspective on the issue, but that's all.
Thanks. Paul, District 1. A couple things. Columbia Gas has had meetings for Tulane Road folks about the project, which I'm sure they'll talk about later on in the meeting. East Tulane had a Block Watch organizational meeting on the 27th with about 20 people there. It was pretty good. There's a lot of enthusiasm for that. We have a follow-up meeting on March 31st at the Crestview Presbyterian Church on Tulane. Officer Brown was there, and it was actually his last day as a CLO. He's moved on to a new assignment within the division, so we wish him well, certainly. Also, I received a call from former District 4 Commissioner Susan Gauntz, who wants to come in next month, and talk about the Clintonville Education Fair, which was an event that was a kind of a regular thing for a number of years. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it at all, so she wants to come in and see if there's an interest in resurrecting that. I think it kind of went by the wayside just before COVID, so that will, there's room on the agenda next month we'll do that. That's all I have.
Donnelly Osborne, District 3. Not much to report. I would say many emails regarding Columbia Gas, which we'll talk about shortly. I've been busy with 311, just seems to be another graffiti explosion, and potholes large enough to swallow my car. So that has been, I guess, my focus for the last month.
Thanks.
Mike Wyman, District 7, nothing to report.
Thanks. You're up.
Good evening, Brittany Bolton, District 5. Apologies for my tardiness. I attended the meeting with Councilwoman Rosa de Padilla that was hopefully covered probably before I came in.
No, we didn't.
Okay. We had a meeting with Councilwoman Rosa de Padilla. Many of us attended, and we covered infrastructure needs and traffic safety. No decisions made, no funding thrown our way, but it was great to have the conversation started, and if others want to chime in, feel free to share your updates. We're looking forward to a High Street speed study. I know Commissioner Wyman would love to see more sidewalk improvements.
Basically, it was a bunch of, a lot of excuses why they couldn't do things.
A lot of processes. In addition to that, I apologize I was running late. Like some of my colleagues up here, I do State House advocacy for my day job, and I would note for folks who have kids in Columbus City Schools that our current budget proposal in the state legislature has cut Columbus City Schools by $45 million. For context, the last levy that we passed was only for $38 million. There are public testimony opportunities in the Ohio House Finance Committee next week, and if you're interested in sharing your story, I encourage you to do so, and I'm happy to help with any testimony drafting and submission and things like that. Did you guys do that pledge already?
Yes.
Okay, great.
We introduced the new Christian.
Yeah, welcome. Congratulations. Did you get to share your background already a little bit? Would you like to if you haven't?
I have not.
Yeah, welcome to our new District 4 Commissioner. If you wouldn't mind just saying a few words about yourself, we're thrilled to have you.
Sure, thank you. So I've lived in Clintonville for 13 years now and absolutely love Clintonville and my neighborhood. My day job is also State House advocacy, focused primarily on children's issues. I'm an executive director of a nonprofit statewide association here based in Columbus. I've also run a local nonprofit that we were focused on reducing infant mortality for several years, and I've also worked for the state.
Thank you. Well, welcome. And how do you say your last name? Saucer? Okay, great. Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to approval of our February meeting minutes. Commissioner Moritz?
I didn't get any, one email saying that everything was fine. So no changes to the draft list and the rest.
Is there a motion to approve the February minutes?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thank you. The minutes are passed. Commissioner Miller, any treasurer's updates this evening?
No, nothing to report.
Great, you're just jamming. City of Columbus is Stacy. Welcome to the Department of Neighborhoods. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. I don't have a whole lot to update. The My Area, My Commission campaign to raise awareness to area commissions is kicking off. Remember that we're working with Councilwoman Akar and the funds that she's allotted for this to work with Canvas. Beginning Monday, the 10th, they are going to air marketing spots on radios such as WODC 93.3 The Bus, WZCB 106.7 The Beats, Throwback 105.3, WXMG 95.5, and WCKX 107.5. I listen to podcasts. So I'm like, no, none of these radio stations, but you will, if you do listen to those radio stations, you're going to hear some marketing advertising in regards to area commissions. So that's really cool. The area commission budget and fiscal training is on Saturday, March 22nd from 10 to 11:30 at 1410 Cleveland Avenue. An email reminder was sent out actually today to the officers to remind you all of this. It is very limited space. It's just in our little home base where we're located for that training. Please do RSVP. Please make sure that you're spending your money by the end of April. You have a total of $2,350. I did, like, a lot of things happened today. I really didn't have a whole lot of updates, which is why I didn't do it in advance, but like literally today, the person who, Ellie Knowles, reached out about billing the domain, whatever that is. So I think I forwarded to Chair Olden. Literally just happened this afternoon, so I was thinking you guys need to decide on that, and I will definitely pay for it once it's decided. Also, just a reminder that the 2 budget documents that was addressed last month is supposed to be approved this month. If you need any help with that, let me know. Other than that, I am, that's all I have. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I don't know if you were the person or not, but on the 27th, Officer Brown was at our organizational meeting for Block Watch, and he said that was his last day as CLO as he's taking on a new assignment.
Yes.
So I'm wondering what our status is of getting a CLO here.
I don't know the status. I will definitely look into that, but for a very long time, the CLO position in Clintonville has been open. He's been covering 2 territories.
Yeah.
So I will definitely check into that. There is someone that we can contact while that position is still open. I have that contact information, but it's on my computer. I can't forward that to you, but I will check to see if they have a timeline, but I haven't heard.
Okay.
Yeah, because I would really like to have one.
Yeah, thanks.
I can chime in too. I was at the Northland Community Council on Tuesday. The officer there mentioned they were talking about the same thing, same position. His line was basically, we need patrol officers. We have to prioritize that first, and CLOs will be next. So no definite timeline, but.
Sorry, still, no, that's perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, but I'll still share who we're supposed to, or who we're supposed to contact are still.
Did you have something to add, Commissioner Warden?
It's been my understanding that Chief Long was position for anyone to bid on.
Any other questions for Department of Neighborhoods tonight? Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
I know we've got someone from City Attorney's Office, Mr. Chris Clark.
Good evening, Commissioners. Christopher Clark, City Attorney's Office. Congratulations, Commissioner Salster. And for those who don't know me, we're in the Property Action Team. We work with fire, police, health and safety, code enforcement, building department, to identify problematic properties, properties that are a public nuisance. We ask them politely to bring their properties in compliance with city codes. If they do not do so, then we file a complaint in the environmental court to ask the judge to order them to bring the property in compliance. This involves anything from bare and exposed wood, trash in the yard, all the way to your drug houses, your bars, your markets that have felonious conduct. I do have just one update with regard to the police and the CLO. I believe I gave the information for Chief Bryant's information to ask about CLOs, but also in speaking to Officer John Brown, he provided me the information for Sergeant Johnson, Joe Johnson. His number is 614-645-4140. And email is generally best for officers, and that's jjjohnson@columbuspolice.org. So the more complaints or the more requests that he receives, I think it's the more likely it'll be posted. And then he can also refer that up to Chief Bryant. But,
Thank you so much.
yeah. But that is all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Clark from commissioners? From neighbors? Great, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
I believe Ms. Michow is on her way, so we can maybe hold her item until a little further down in the agenda. I have City of Plymouth zone in. I don't see Jim Lewitt. Are you James?
I'm James Lewis tonight. Yeah,
Okay.
We work very different in person, but
No problem.
Same message.
Do you have a flash drive or anything you want me to plug
No, there's no formal presentation this evening. So, so my name is Alex Sauersmith. I work with Plan Division. I'm a planner there, Department of Development. Also work on the zoning project and various other things as well, including link us work and such things. So I've been in front of you before, but it's been a while. And that's mainly why we're going around to all the area commissions right now, is just kind of give a slight update. We don't have a ton of content to provide at the moment. But we wanted to make sure we didn't lose touch and that we are still continuing the zoning update process. Part of our phase 1, we looked at corridors, the main corridors throughout the city. And there we came up with 6 districts to apply to those corridors throughout the city. It's about 12,000 parcels, about 140 miles. That opened up the possibility for residential on the first floor, which opened up the potential, you probably see this, but the potential for 80,000 units within Columbus over the next 10 years, hoping to aid our housing issue. So we have completed that work. It's been in effect. I do have some numbers. Maybe I can pull up here real quick. Somebody just sent it to me right before I got here. So what we've seen so far in the past 6-ish or so months on the corridors that we rezoned, about 17 eating and drinking establishments, 10 childcare / education uses with that. 14 still auto-oriented uses, so your tire, gas station, vehicles, things of that nature. Residential projects, we've seen about 463 units so far, including some on Old Henderson Road, Fifth Avenue, Jones Hill Apartments, Cleveland Avenue Townhomes, and Taylor House as well. Those aren't completed projects, the ones that have been proposed. And then that information you probably will find all that useful saw in there. Those are some numbers though to kind of start you out. So we completed that work. Now we're moving on to our next phase of work. Currently, and this was just released today, we had a press release today and an email blast today. So I do encourage people to visit our website and look up Zoning Columbus. The URL is kind of complicated. Just look up Zoning Columbus and go to our website. You get an email list. Be in contact with that too. Another piece that's really important, especially for area commissions, if you haven't visited the Building and Zoning Services Development Tracker, please do. When you open up that map, it will be, honestly, a bit confusing to use it on your own. I'm working with them to create a user guide for all that. But you can sign up so that you can get push notifications when permits or preliminary site plans, which is what someone doing a larger development would have to submit before they get their permits. Those can be pushed out to you for a certain area. So you can put in Clintonville. I need to try it out myself, but you can put in Clintonville, and then it will push those out to you, so you don't have to go get that information. So this would be in the case where you don't, of course, have variances or zonings, right? Where you're not going to see the things that are coming through the area commission. So that's an incredibly important thing. But right now, I've been spending the past several months really working, like I mentioned, as a Northland on Tuesday, working with the Northland area. So we are rezoning East 161, or East Dumb Granville Road, from Worthington on the west to Blendon on the east, essentially, is what we're looking at. Now, we already have rezoned some of that, Cleveland Avenue and some other spots there too around the continent, but we're going to fill in that whole corridor using the existing zoning districts and using the existing zoning code. So we're not updating that part of it at all. It all remains the same. There will be some smaller updates that we'll be doing to the code along with that too. Some things that we've seen as in practice, it's like this isn't working, that isn't working, we need to make some tweaks. Those will come along with it too. But 161 is going to have a 60-day comment period as we did with that first phase. That 60-day comment period will start next Tuesday on March 11th. If council, let's say, goes and passes that, because they're going to review that legislation on Monday, next Monday on the 10th. And if they do that and the mayor signs off on it, then that would begin, I should say, next Tuesday, start the 60-day period. Again, all that information on the website. There's going to be another survey, a map, all of those things are going to be available there. So that's what we call a map update. We're not updating the code, we're just updating the map as it may be. So moving forward from that, we are looking at expanding essentially people's access to jobs, especially living wage jobs as well. And also expanding people's access to the housing market. So essentially looking at expanding economic opportunity, if you will. Our main focus would be on those employment-based districts. So those would be mostly your manufacturing, your commercial, the rest of the commercial that we have, maybe some institutional as well. And within that will be included what we like to call employment centers, so your larger office complex centers, so kind of the bigger parcels throughout the area. And there may be a little bit of housing weaved into that, some residential weaved into that, but we will not be going back into the neighborhoods, deep into the neighborhoods. Just there might be some residential or some properties zoned residential are in close proximity or directly adjacent to those manufacturing uses, to those larger employment centers that we may address with this phase as well. But with this phase, the 6 districts that we have do not work, so we're going to have to come up with new districts to apply to those areas and some code and design guidelines and all that stuff to go along with it. So before we really get into the zoning part of that work, what my division does is we work with land use policy. So recommended land use, what we recommend throughout the city of Columbus, and then also our citywide planning policies that we use. So for those of you that are not familiar with that land use policy, it's just going to be kind of more of a recommendation that precedes when you zone something. So we're going to take a look at it, apply some more general, what we call categories, not districts, to those areas that I just spoke of. And after we do that work, lots of community engagement and all that will go along with it throughout this year. Then once that's complete, then we will go and do the zoning part of that as well. We hope to have all this completed by the end of this year. We're looking at potentially an accelerated timeline for this, but I will get back to you with more information on that. Generally, that is all I have to say. Do you have any other questions or anything that you had, top of mind? I had something else that I'll think of here in a second.
I think, thank you so much, first of all, for coming in with the update. One question, just because we have been revisiting traffic violence every meeting for many meetings in a row now, and I realize that's not what you came to talk about, but any thoughts either now or in the future around how traffic and pedestrian and multimodal safety is a component of some of these new zoning opportunities and how those things interact, I think would be really welcome for this body.
Yeah, it doesn't relate to exactly what I'm speaking to here, but I showed up on a bike. I show up on a bike all the time. Been biking for 18 years year round. A lot of biking. So it's a topic that's very near and dear to my heart because I've been lucky enough, to avoid being in a hospital or just being here, to be able to do that. Anyone that gets into a car also, there's a lot of us involved in that. We have our Vision Zero campaign, of course. Catherine Sodarski does a tremendous job with that, but there's no way you can design your way out of some people not driving properly, as we see many cars going into buildings and such things like that. But mainly how it relates to zoning is, what we're looking to do is create walkable communities, right? Is to kind of take away those empty spaces that are throughout our city and fill those in with some sort of development, hopefully creating a mix of uses so that somebody can live in a place and walk to all their daily essential needs. Creating that walkable kind of environment, or maybe connecting those kind of walkable nodes with transit, which is what LinkUs is going to start to bring. Also the increased CODA service that comes along with LinkUs. It's not just the big BRT buses, but it's also that increased frequency as well. So how all that kind of relates in, generally speaking, and I did bicycle advocacy and I did Safe Routes to School as a job of my previous work. That all relates to the more people you have out doing walking, biking, all that, there's safety in numbers essentially. So in hopes of there's that part of it, getting more people out there through design, and when you have that density, then we as a city only have so many resources. We have to spread it fairly wide across a very large swath of land. Creating more density, we can concentrate those resources in a smaller area, creating more safety along with that. And I'd say a lot of the work that our Department of Public Service is doing now, the Bike Plus plan, which is a bicycle master plan. They're also getting a little ahead of myself, but they're also going to be looking at, I should say, a pedestrian master plan as well. They found ways infrastructure projects take an incredibly long time to get done. And so they found, at least with bicycle infrastructure, maybe they'll try to do other things too, is to do quick to build. So you kind of put some facilities in without having to go through all of the rigorous engineering bureaucracy that we have to do usually. And if that is proven, then we can put in the infrastructure more permanently. So I think there's a lot of things we're doing as a city, but I think generally when you get that density, you get more people out on the street, you're gonna see more safety, because people just are more familiar with seeing people out, not in a car. That's a lot of the problems that we have throughout our auto-centrically designed cities and, you know, through our country is that people just aren't used to seeing people walking in all places at all times. So indirectly, it does help with that.
Thank you, and I know that's not what you came to talk about, but I also knew that you would be able to.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to participate in like future conversations, you know, outside of this meeting, things like that too, because I also live here in the neighborhood as well, of course. So yeah, if you ever want anything, please let me know. It's, you know, I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah, Commissioner Ward's got his hand up first, maybe? Okay.
Two questions. One is, you described this new areas, zones where there's industrial activities. Any of those areas in Clintonville? Or?
Yeah, there's going to be. I mean, we're working on you know, a map that's going to tell us, you know, I mean, obviously we look at a zoning map and see where it's zoned, right? But there's other factors that we're going to take into place, and I just saw this isn't it, but I just saw the first kind of output from that map, and we matched that up with some other work that we've done, and it seems to be pretty accurate. So that's a roundabout way of answering your question, but along Indianola Avenue is what pops out. I live right off Indianola Avenue, but Indianola Avenue, there's some zone manufacturing. That's mainly what pops in my head right now. I don't think we have a ton here in Clintonville. It's mostly along the rail, right? That's where you'll find a lot of that manufacturing for obvious reasons.
Other question is, how do we sign up for the website and get the push notifications about planning in our neighborhood?
Yeah, so like the development tracker?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. So that you can look up development tracker. Again, I don't know the URL off the top of my head. Memory is not my forte. But if you look up building and zoning, City of Columbus Building and Zoning Services Development Tracker. You got that?
No.
Come on. City of Columbus Development Tracker, that word. There you go, second one down. Yeah.
It's always hard.
Because then you see the URL up there, it's like, it's crazy. So you agree to those terms, whether you like it or not. See, so go into like the login over here, and we can, or over there, and then that'll prompt you to go and create an account, and so that you can access all that too. So if you go back, so when you do go to here, click the agreement again. When you do go to here, if you go up to this far right corner up here where you see the 3 pieces of paper kind of stacked right there, the hamburger kind of thing, click on that, and then go to legend on the other tab, and then that's going to tell you what all these things mean here. So you have site compliance final, so that means they've gotten their final site compliance plan, they're ready to go, they're going to get permits, all that stuff. Preliminary is like they just brought this in, so that hasn't went through city review yet. It's important to remember whether you get a variance or whether you don't get a variance, you have to go through a review process where every city department looks at your site plan. And then if you have lot splits on there as well, and then in the case of larger, this would normally be single-family residential developments, that final plat would be in there too, so it's probably not a bunch. And then it also has the variances on there as well, so you can kind of zoom in and see that. Again, this isn't, the company that makes this isn't the most user-friendly map application company, but it's almost what every government throughout the entire United States uses. You kind of have to play around with it. So again, I encourage people to get that push notification unless you're more familiar with maps. It took me a second. I look at maps every day, all day, and it took me a second to get what's going on here.
Can I ask a follow-up question? So if the zoning approved, there's fewer cases coming here where the area commission asking for variances, but these new developments may have a major impact on North High Street. Is this a way for us to be on top of things or get in touch with developers who are proposing major projects in, say, North High Street?
Getting those push notifications is going to be that first step, right? And then seeing what information you can get from that and getting in contact with developers. We don't, I mean, that's something that is an issue that's been lingering that hasn't directly been addressed. I'm hopeful that there is, this is one of the ways to address that. And that's why I point people towards this, or was this kind of the way to address that at the moment? I would hope that there's more to that in the future, right? Maybe it's not something to where you are required to go in front of the area commission or required to get a recommendation or like a vote from the area commission, but rather you have to go in front of the area commission and at least present and inform people of what's going on, take their comments. I would hope that the developer that's doing a lot of work would take the community's input towards that. I know all of them won't, but some of them will, if they want to do repeated business, as any business owner should do.
just a quick build, just a clarification. That's like painting stripes on the ground to create pedestrian bump out community with flexible bollards. Is that what you for bicycle infrastructure or?
I mean, that's a piece of it. Yeah, that's a piece of it. You know, they also got a, I think, grant to do some crosswalks that we don't normally see that have different kind of patterns in them as well.
Oh, okay.
So that's
I've
part
seen some
of it
test
too.
ones painted around now.
Yep, that's what that's from. I think they kind of stuck that one in, some of the people on the team there. But yeah, the rest of it would be doing, kind of when you do the temporary stuff, those plastic bollards that are real flexible, and then maybe, you know, if it's something that you've seen a lot of usage, it's working, maybe you put something like a concrete curb in between traffic, which is really gonna make it more safe for people.
All right, thanks.
So, yeah.
Any other questions from commissioners for Mr. Sarsmith? I think we've got one question from Nate.
Yes.
Mr. Lafayette, George Wilkins, could you explain to me the 60-day process, and I would like to be heavily involved with this 161. I know this is a piece of the mayor's plan to redevelop 161. So I would like to be heavily involved in that and give a lot of input because I had dealt with you before by the layouts, photographs, and things where it needs to go along 161. So is that open to the public? And we did some flyers so people can really gauge in this because I know what I heard, people did not know about 161 if this is the next phase of this. So I would be honored to help you put down 161 because it needs some really infrastructure in that area.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, you know, I was there, we worked together a lot during that first phase, so we can do the same thing, Nate, that's not a problem. You know, as far as getting more information out there, this isn't a full another phase. This is just a kind of update. This is mainly coming from the community, really push there for us to come in and do something there. And we're, you know, took another look at it because we didn't put it in the first phase because the service road, some other aspects to it. Also, there's some other plans coming along for 161. There's been some recent work with roundabouts and the shared use path there as well that's been installed, more of that to come. There's also a future study, ODOT's been doing a study there, and a future transit study along the corridor too that made us think, okay, we can take another look at
Now,
this.
I do want to ask you, because I was the part of the organization for me and my wife for the Association for the Blind.
Yes.
And something has came up with the roundabouts for the blind folks. And that needs to be curbed into this is because I went to a meeting with the Association for the Blind, and that's the biggest issue of that is having some, not a roundabouts, but having more pedestrian beacon things for that and having more walkability for the disability and blind folks. Because what was brought to my attention, me and my wife said in this meeting, that was the main issue for the roundabouts. If we are planning on doing this, we want somebody to take for a visually impaired population. How would they get around that crossing from street to street if it's a roundabout? So maybe you don't have the clarification or answer for that right now, but at a later time you need to sit down and talk about it.
100%. Yeah, I don't have a clarification for that right now on my project, but I can definitely see what you run into there. It's you know, they work really well for moving cars around, and I think it's a really good way to facilitate traffic movement, but it does create some potential additional barriers for people walking or biking. For sure. Thank you, Nate.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, great questions. And Ms. Simbrot has a question.
Well, one of the things that I know that people who haven't lived in Clintonville for a long time don't know the history of Indianola and the light manufacturing, if you will.
Yep.
And it's been a real economic driver for Linden and North Clintonville, because if you think of south of Broadway, that's heavily University. West of High Street is now heavily Ohio Health. And when you get to Linden, and Linden and Clintonville were Siamese until 71 went in. And so that provides easy, you talked about the transportation, there's a lot of people in Linden who can take the bus across Broadway up Indianola to work at Marzetti's. And so some light manufacturing is not always a bad thing to have adjacent to a residential area. Also has the fact that Intel is now on a 5-year delay had any impact on the speed with which you think you have to work, because last year kept, we've got these people coming, well, guess what, they're not coming now. Well, they're not coming as soon. I think they're all coming where's Amazon? Oh, but is that impacting the way you're moving forward at this point?
Kind of back to your first part of that is just to clarify, is not that we're looking at these areas to rezone them to make them residential. A lot of this, especially a place like Marzetti's, it's been there for a while. A lot of this in larger sites too, because you got to look at the main way the city gets revenue is income taxes, right? Jobs kind of thing, right? So we want to maintain those places that are employment centers. So this would be looking at more of how can we, maintain those existing manufacturing or industrial sites, but also when they are in close proximity to residential, making sure that they have good adjacency with that residential, right? If there's good screening, setbacks, other things like that we can do to make it so that when there is residential existing, it coexists a little bit better. That's the same thing when I was, at the Northland on Tuesday, they brought up as well, with Intel being delayed. It doesn't really, because I think that, Intel's a factor for sure. That was one of the factors, but there's a lot of factors to our growth. Our new American population is one of the first things that comes to mind when I think about our population growth, but there's quite a bit. I'm a son of an immigrant that came here, and they moved here, and I grew up in Columbus because of that, so it's kind of near and dear. And some things that are going on, around the country may have a greater impact than what maybe Intel would have on that too. So I don't think it necessarily, unless we see a huge population, maybe not drop, but less of an increase, right? Which I don't necessarily foresee. It doesn't really slow our process down or our thinking of needing to get that more housing and addressing that too. In answering that, there's a lot of other factors that kind of come into play that I'm not going to say publicly right now. But nonetheless, I don't think that that's really going to change our thinking a whole lot. Maybe some of the other things that are going on in the area might be affected by that as they look at roadway and other kind of more transportation related things, because that's what I think is infrastructure wise is really going to be needed out there. What's that?
Gives you more time.
Gives more time. It does. It gives more time for some areas, but we're still experiencing, with or without Intel, we're still going to experience that growth. When you see read a lot about, Amazon warehouses, obviously they, have a decent amount of employment going there, but a lot of things that we're seeing, like data centers, right? There's a lot of land taken up by that. There's a lot of investment by that, and it's touted that there's very few jobs that go into those things. And that's a whole nother kind of set of issues I'm not going to really address right now. So some of the things like that, I think, bring the perception that there's this huge amount of growth with it. Not saying that Intel would not bring growth, because it would. But there's, other things like the defense company that makes drones, moving around Rickenbacker, that would probably have maybe even a more profound impact in some ways than other things. And that seems like, that one's happening. And there's going to be more and more on the way, I think so too. So it has, a little bit, but not necessarily unless we see a huge change in the pattern that's been going on. And so far, I haven't seen that. So we'll see. It's grown a lot since I was, born here. This has changed quite a bit. So.
Did you have a question? Any other questions from neighbors? I did want to confirm thank you for showing us the site plan, the one that we can get push notifications from. For the public comment period, is that on the Zoning Columbus website, or
yep,
I just want to make sure we push out the right one?
Yep, it's going to be on the website. It'll be in as soon as you click on the website, it's going to be that top banner. We'll have take the survey here and some other information splashed along with that. So I'll update it. Yeah, that should be updated. That'll be updated. I'm sorry, let's say now. Don't go there. Well, there'll be some information there now, but the survey will be posted next Tuesday, midnight. So, yep.
Thanks so much for being here.
Yep, thank you.
And I saw Ms. Chapman from City Council, if you wanted to share an update tonight.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Apologies for my tardiness. Just ran from another event, but I wanted to give you guys a few quick updates. I hope everyone is having a good evening and happy Women's History Month. First, I wanted to mention for Women's History Month, we are actually having an event called Saluting Women Who Serve. Councilwoman Nancy Day Ockauer is doing this event at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. It's on 300 West Broad Street. It's on March 20th. It's a Thursday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. p.m. We'll have a keynote speaker that is a U.S. Army veteran. The event is free and parking is free as well, but tickets are required to attend. So if you go to nationalvmm.org, you can get your ticket there. And then if you just go and check out our website or our social media, you'll be able to get the link for that as well. So just wanted to put that event on your radar. I'll stay in order for one that way. Also, Commissioner Wyman asked this question last meeting, but the applications for the Columbus Advisory Commission on Disability Issues is still open, but it will be open until the end of next week, March 14th. 11:59 p.m. is the deadline. If you go on our website and just type in CACDI, you'll be able to pull up that application as well as all the requirements to be able to serve on the commission. And again, that deadline is on the 14th, which is the end of next week. Another save the date would be actually in May, and this is our annual Africa Day celebration for the city of Columbus. The actual date of the event is May 22nd. It's a Thursday. We love Thursday events. So a lot of events fall on a Thursday. And more details will be to come. Probably at the next meeting, I'll be able to have a full event flyer for you guys. But we'd love to invite you all to City Hall to celebrate this event. We plan to do it outdoors and have food and opportunities for you guys to shop from African businesses. So just put that on your calendar. And then some other things that were going on, some Wednesday events that you can put on your calendars. Our Councilman Christopher L. Weich is hosting Wednesdays with Weich. These are opportunities for the community to just kind of go and talk to him about anything that you have on your radar. He's our sustainability chair. He's also our public utilities chair, and he vice chairs neighborhoods as well. But he can speak on a range of issues that council is handling. So we welcome you guys to go visit him. He'll be hosting these events 2 times each month, always going to be on a Wednesday. We had one yesterday on the 5th, and the next one will be on March 19th. And if you just follow our social media account or go to our website, all that information will be there. It will also be in my newsletter, so if you want that, see me after the meeting. I'm happy to put you on. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
Can you email me the announcements?
Yes, I can. Thank you, guys.
Any questions from neighbors? Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up, we have City of Columbus Recreation and Parks Department here with a Whetstone Park update.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm sorry I wasn't here earlier to get it set up.
No worries. Happy to be here with you all. I'm Tina Moan with the City of Columbus. I'm in the Recreation and Parks Department. Michelle Hilliard will also be presenting. She's the project manager for all things Whetstone. And then Angela Short is part of our consulting team for also part of the Whetstone projects. But we were hoping just to provide a quick update on the sports field, which you're probably seeing a lot of activities there. And then also to provide an update, but also some information on the upcoming pond improvement project, which we're really excited to share with you all. You probably noticed it's about half full, so there's some updates there on that, and any questions that we can take. But we're also, just as sort of a preview, which we'll talk about and get into this, we're phasing projects at Whetstone. The fields were the first phase, the pond, the stream, and the culvert
The bottom.
is a second.
Start with the
Oh,
sports.
yes.
The
So
bottom.
it's-
It's a big thing that probably people think about is the roads.
Oh, yeah.
Roads
Well,
will be
yeah,
improved.
yeah.
We wanna do all the construction.
Which will be kind of
before
phase 3.
we do all the roads. We
Yeah.
know there's a lot of potholes.
Yeah.
along
Yeah, so phase 3 will be a hard surface project, which we're hoping to come maybe in April to sort of inform on that. But we'll inform you first on the first 2 phases, which again is sports field, quick update, pond project, and then next month or the following month we'll inform more on the hard surface, all things hard surface. Good? Yeah. Angela, you want to set up?
No, I think that's good.
Okay.
And then if you want to open up the other one, this just kind of shows kind of how we're moving along through through some North Fields and then, the restoration project coming this summer. And then,
Well, the fields, yeah, the fields I think they've been seeded. I think you guys have all seen it. We've had some neighbors come along while we've been doing construction, being like, are you guys building apartments down here? No, we haven't built apartments down there. We're redoing the fields, adding drainage and irrigation. So the irrigation was originally coming from the pond, and it still will be, but, so we're kind of recycling the water. But with the pond renovation, I think you guys have all seen it, the stones are kind of like caving in, and there's a lot to do down there. And we're gonna add an interactive area, so I don't know if Angela is gonna pick it up.
yeah, so I think ultimately, the big idea is, we make it more functional for the community, right? But with that, we also make it a little more ecological as well. So you'll see here, we've got some different edge conditions, so we're staying consistent with the concrete edge on that southeastern side. We're gonna replace the shelter with a smaller shelter with some ADA accessible picnic table, sorry, thank you. With that, and then we'll also have the edge condition of still having the stone. We're resetting some larger ones and making sure that they are more stable, because we still want it to be a space where people can come in and fish and still function as a casting pond. And then you can see also that we're gonna have some vegetation, some shorter native vegetation coming on the edges as well. So you'll have those 3 different edge conditions. Inside the pond, you'll see we have some different habitat. Again, that's for the better ecology for the aquatic life there. So some brush, some sandbank run, really to help with their habitat. But also trying to think and not get too heavy on the ecological side, because we realize it is a casting pond, and that sometimes can get fishing lines snagged. So really trying to balance those ideas of creating a more sustainable pond while still creating a community feature. One of the fun things about this, I think we're going to create, you can see in the southeast there is this water interaction area. So we're going to reutilize some of those stones that are out there now, and to create this interaction area that kids can kind of, get a little closer to the water, and start to interact better. So I think that'll be really fun. So that southeast side we kind of picture as more of the family center side with the shelter and then water interaction. We're also gonna have an overflow cascade. Right now it's a well-fed pond that goes into a catch basin. So we're gonna change that so it's more a natural feature. And so that way, it's less maintenance at that catch basin. I know if anyone saw it, when it gets clogged, we overflow. And so this will be a much natural state, but also allows for, again, maybe some interaction with water and nature itself. I think the other thing I have up there is the hammock groves. So we've talked about, and we've seen,
we went out.
there's a ton of hammock.
We interviewed a few people.
Yeah, it was fun. Some people like to hammock in the sun. But so we're gonna have a couple different areas where you can have either groups or people could come in singles with some colors that match the new playground, and just really try to make this cohesive piece of the park. So we'll have some in the south and then a couple other little spots, so if people want to have small groups or larger groups, they can come in. The hammocks won't be supplied, people bring their own hammocks in, but we'll have the posts that they can either go to the post a tree or whatnot. So, but I think that's kind of a fun feature that's different than what we've got in the city.
I know I'm gonna get this question. The water interactive area, how would you compare that to like a splash pad? Is it like not a splash pad? Okay, can kids get wet there?
Yes.
Okay.
But we go down there a lot. Like we've been down there a lot, and kids are always on the rocks, trying to get in the water and play with it. So this is just more going to provide a shelf. Yeah. A shelf so that they can kind of get out there and interact with it, and then if a child was to fall, they aren't falling fully into the water. There's going to be a shelf there, it's a safety shelf.
Yeah, and we've got got an image there, and again, these are just images to try to let you see and get a feel for what it's gonna feel like. So you can see the kids over there. The idea is that we would have stones that are flush with grade and then maybe like 2 inches below. You know what I mean? So that way they can feel the water, and have that experience, but not splash pad.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I can manage
Yeah, no,
expectations.
you know, it's good.
Go quick.
What photos? Oh, these photos. I see.
Yeah, so you can see there, they're just like, there's different heights that the kids can jump on. Obviously, this is not exact, but I just wanted to kind of give that feel of what this might start to look like.
Very cool.
And that's the new shelter, it's just a cantilever, it's a lot.
Yeah.
You can see through it, I think safety wise, and feel more secure.
You're getting rid of the old stone bunker?
Yes.
Very exciting.
And the picnic table out of the pond.
The trash can.
Yes, again. Awesome. Any questions?
So our goal is to do this throughout the summer, because we are not opening those door fields until fall of 2025. So we're hoping to move this construction along so that we do not kind of collide there, that we hope to have it all done by fall.
And I know, because I have a U8 kiddo, spring soccer season starts in a couple weeks, so these south fields are still in play for spring soccer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone here know when the Rangers' first game is? I tried to look it
I don't
up.
know when their Rangers is. I know U8 Whetstone kids' first practice is March 20th, and our first game is like 2 weeks after that.
Okay.
2 Saturdays after that.
I think it's important just to note that the pond's gonna be out of commission majority of the spring, summer, while it's under construction, so we're not gonna be stocking the pond with fish, we're not gonna have any of those events.
And we do plan on putting up a lot of, kind of like the balls. We don't want anyone in that area. There's gonna be a lot of movement in that area for a while. So that's the hard part, because a lot of people do like to, I mean, that is the transition area.
I have a question about that. So how will it affect the bike path and?
It will not affect the Owen Major Trail.
Will that
It
affect-
will, yes. It will affect the trail going down to it.
will
So,
Not ceramic though, not the pickup from ceramic drive.
Okay.
That's the pond,
The one on the north side, that will be
Yeah.
closed off.
right, you got it.
Any other questions from commissioners? Any questions from neighbors?
Yes, I would like to know the disability and the safety factor of this. And also, could you give me more details of the concrete and the more accessibility for visually impaired and blind and people in wheelchairs? I would just like to get more clarification. And also, what's the time factor and how much is this cost? What the time that you started on this and how much is this? And does people that live around this, do they know that this is going on time after time again? So if you can break down what the cost of this may be and what this look like when it's all complete.
Those are great questions. Thank you for bringing them up. In terms of accessibility, so I think Angela touched on some of the areas. The new shelter space will have ADA accessibility, which it didn't have before, so we're excited to bring sort of those new features around the path. You'll be able to access those from an accessibility standpoint, from a mobility challenge standpoint, the entire route around. And then we're going to be providing more access, water access that allows for mobility challenge, but also, like Angela was saying, children. So there will be more access to the water for fishing or recreation, generally speaking. Does that answer?
Yes, and also, I don't see where, there's a lot of time, because I sit on the Association for the Blind, and so will there be any braille copies, signs posted for the braille or either some type of facilities up there, like Matthew Central's K-State or Interport, you know? And so we have to look at that. So there's a lot of times that has been forgotten out there for as far as the disability people and visually impaired and the blind association. So could you explain more about that?
We've been implementing more of the signage in terms of for visually impaired, deaf, accessibility throughout all of our parks in our playgrounds. This is something for this particular space I think we've talked about. I don't know that we've landed on the specific signage, but it's something that we've been incorporating more into our park improvement projects. So specifically, we're leaning more into what can we provide in terms of what it might be to message fishing or just the natural spaces. We haven't talked about that explicitly here, but that's something that, we've talked about it, we haven't solidified whether or not we're implementing these or where. So it's something that we can certainly consider.
And my last question is more lighting, in case people want to visit this late in the afternoon, because I know it gets dark like 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And I didn't hear nothing about safety, security up in this thing. And so, I'd just like to hear more clarification about security and cameras and stuff. Thank you for your time.
Valid. There's there's lighting in the parking lot currently. As part of the hard surface improvement projects, we're gonna make sure that all the lights that are there are operable, because that's something that isn't always the case. We've been switching out lighting too to make it more sustainable in terms of the bulbs that we're using and some of the engineering. So that's something that's part of the hard surface project, which would be the third phase. We're not implementing more lighting per se around the pond itself, just because we welcome participation, but after hours when it's dark, sometimes we start leaning into activities that are unsavory and that we're not welcoming, particularly at these spaces where there are other safety issues to consider with water, right? But the parking lots will be well lit. We're not considering additional lighting in terms of lighting the pond area. Does that help?
Yeah, then my last question, make sure when you do all this work, make sure you have some signs posted. This is the time frame, what's gonna be done, so people can be aware of it, because I know a lot of times the city don't put things up like wait, and people get upset, so make sure we have some visible signposts wherever this leads to, back from the library or whatever this is at. So we wanna make sure we have close signs from on High Street, says back from the library, so just make sure people are aware of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Any other questions from neighbors today? Well, thanks. Oh, yeah, go for it.
Question. Do you have any update on possible bike path or bike lanes on Holland Back Road?
Hard surface, phase 3.
Okay, I'll wait.
Coming next month.
Yes.
Ish. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll have some, I think, pretty exciting hard surface improvement from the path that cuts through, getting to this way, that cuts through Holland Back, widening that, improving it, putting some different features there, and then the bike path.
And they will come and present that as they're in that design phase.
Okay.
They aren't there yet.
I'm interested in community gardening, and I keep staring at the front lawn in front of the community center and thinking how much of a lawn it is instead of a garden. And I was talking to some other folks at the Parks and Rec, and they said that a lot of the branches are being encouraged to start gardens at their own centers. Is that something that is in the works or could be in the works? At Whetstone?
That's a really good question. Specifically for what I'll call community center gardens, they're directly related to the specific community center. So we have 33 community centers. Some have none, some have others, some have really great participation, which is why they have them. Some are loop-in programming specifically to the community gardens. For Whetstone, those community gardens have been offline for a little while. So you might have been part of what would have been 2 years ago an Earth Day project that we revamped them, removed some of the
I have one other question too.
Sure.
So a lot of names receive of these can only go, I think, 500 yards, 700 feet, from their home habitat. And there's the prairie at Whetstone, and then you guys have all these natives that you're adding. Is it possible to, like, do a bike trail throughout Whetstone? Can you create a native pollinator trail there as well to allow them to have greater access to a larger area?
Yeah, I love that you're asking that. A lot of what we have along the Olentangy Trail, we're calling that sort of the pollinator pathway because we have these pockets of pollinator spaces from 0.02 acres, literally, to what Whetstone is our largest pollinator space, which is about 4 acres. So we're thinking about it. You had asked about the hard surface and some of the space from Holland back and thinking about the bike path that cuts through the park is sort of a safer space for wildlife, bees and butterflies, moths, so that there isn't so much conflict with traffic. So we're thinking about in that space creating maybe a little bit more pollinator spaces to get you down to the larger pollinator space. But along the Olentangy Trail, generally speaking, we have about 16 pollinator spaces that are sprinkled throughout. You just might not recognize them, right? So in certain seasons, you don't know that they exist, which is fine that we don't know as humans, but the pollinators are utilizing those spaces. So we're always thinking about that. We have a whole program surrounding pollinators.
Oh, great.
Yeah, love to chat more with you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for your question.
Going once, going twice. Thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you.
We appreciate the
Yeah,
updates.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Is it okay if I pull these files really quick for our minutes and then I'll hand you back the
Yeah,
flash
sure,
drive?
of course. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll email these to you, Mark.
We can get you the plan set too for anything else, detail, plots, right now.
Thank you, appreciate it. Next on our agenda is our ongoing traffic calming discussion, and I know at the top a few of us mentioned during our district updates that we did meet with Councilmember Rosa de Padilla. I was running in late, but I pulled out my notes. I can share a couple more notes from that meeting since we have this agenda item. One action item for us is to coordinate with our planning and development committee to share, I think they have an existing, if somebody from PD is in this room, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have a priority sidewalk list that they've created over the last couple of budget cycles that we were gonna bring back to life and share with council's office. We also had some additional discussion around exploring declaring parts of Clintonville as a business district. We've gotten conflicting feedback from different public entities around how that decision is made, so that we're exploring that option a little bit more. And I think those were the two big pieces. It sounded like there will be another round of 614 Beautiful grants as well this year, so we'll keep our ears out for that too. Did I miss? I know you were on there too. Yeah.
So, I leave the meeting early, can you tell me more about the study that they're putting through?
The traffic study,
Yeah.
I think it's the same one that we have discussed at this meeting, just that there would be a more fulsome high street traffic study likely this summer, it sounded like, I think is the timeline.
Yeah.
We're actually gonna restripe or make the lane slightly narrower for the study.
That's right.
I think from
Yeah.
Whetstone up to, maybe, I'm not sure.
I'm gonna write it down.
In relationship to that too, so I also work with the, I guess, kind of formerly URF program, that we worked with area commissions before. The last project we worked with you on was a sidewalk on Indianola, around Cook Road, where you have that gap there. That's still a project that is in the works. It's gonna be going into design this year. So that's gonna happen. Also, that little piece of Cook Road that doesn't have sidewalk right across from Bishop Watterson, that's also gonna be a part of that project. So these things take a long time, but in the coming years, you will see that coming along. Another project that I'm not directly in relationship to is through CODA and Link Us. They have a transit supportive infrastructure, so they talk a lot about sidewalks and things like that when they're out trying to get people to vote for them. As part of that, one of the priority projects, or this may be Bike Plus that I'm thinking about, but either way, I know for the city it's a priority project to look at Indianola from just south of Morris all the way at least to Lincoln, I think actually to Worthington, essentially, a little past Lincoln Avenue, looking to put a shared use path along the roadway there. It'd probably be on the rail side. That's something I know, like Libby Weatherholtz, and when she was with the commission, was really on it. And at one point in time, I was on the planning and development committee, and we were talking about that then. So those are projects that are going to come along. It doesn't necessarily affect like all traffic safety, but it's helpful.
No, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
It all works together.
It all works together. Yeah, I wasn't aware of the study. Is that the public service doing a study on High Street?
I think it is public service.
Yes,
Imagine.
public service, their traffic management team is gonna do a traffic study on that street so they can see what's feasible, to add on to the system.
You know the limitations?
Yes, it is going to be, and this came from the, resolution that the area commission passed, so it's going to be between Hollenbach and Dellen Avenue would possibly be where, they're seeing something is really feasible at the moment, but, the exact stretch, are you able to pull up that resolution?
You don't have to right now.
I don't know what.
Hollenbach and what street?
Eland.
Sorry, that was the stretch that they looked at and said that looks like it's most feasible between that stretch, but it's going to be on North High Street here. I'm forgetting the exact streets in between, but it's the longer stretch that was mentioned in the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably just that section is where we have the room to actually do something more quickly.
Yeah. So that was the section that they immediately could pick out something being done. It's like less than a mile between here and Hot Chicken Takeover, but then the traffic study will let them know what they can do for the entire stretch of High Street that you guys proposed. So.
Yeah, that's an important connection. Whenever you hit those ravines, any of those hard lines, ravines, railroads, highways, all those hard lines funnel traffic into few roadways versus dispersing it out over a grid like we have. So those are really like the choke points for people that are walking, biking, things of that nature.
When is the traffic study to begin?
I had spring written down.
Yeah, it's gonna be in the summer. They didn't give me an exact date. They're really just waiting for the weather to be permissible to do this study just because of the equipment. So it could start late spring, but midsummer, and then I'll check in with them to see if they have a date sometime in the spring that I can give to you guys. But.
So what's our follow-up with city council after that meeting that we had?
I think we owe them, I had as an action, we owe them our priority sidewalk list as a starter, and that as capital budget season approaches, we need to coalesce around 3 key priorities. This is kind of the guidance that we got during that meeting too.
So, do we want to figure out the 3 things, or?
Planning and development is coming next month.
Yeah,
They are?
I think it'd be good to have that presentation before we have our.
I think they're gonna make some recommendations.
Okay. They were really helpful last year, prioritizing our asks.
Okay, sounds good.
We have Eliza, right?
Yeah.
She's a former work for the city, currently a planner too, and transportation planner. She's a very knowledgeable person, yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from commissioners? Anything we missed from the meeting? Any additional comments from viewers?
You already know what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
So new faces that is involved in this, and I was like, I wanted to throw out that, the farmer's market's starting up again, I think in April. There's gonna be a lot more foot traffic on Oakland Park and High, and the visibility there is really, really poor. And going down up and down the street, talking to neighbors, like, there wasn't one neighbor who I talked to who was like, no, that intersection's fine, leave it alone. Like, everyone has had a really scary story with them in a car on that place, and like, it's just gonna happen again, and especially with the yoga studios and stuff right now too. So I just wanna throw out there that please, like, home, if you drive south on High Street, just look at how poor the visibility is around that corner, because you can't see around the building when you're turning. And so people get up at good speed, and then they see this little pedestrians are there. So, just wanna throw that in again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can piggyback onto that. I lived at the corner of Open Park and High for years, and sit on their front porch and be able to see people run the light, because there's something about traveling south on High Street that you're looking at the Broadway light and you look through the Open Park light. So there should be some backer on that light, something else that you actually see it. We have that same issue in North Clintonville. Can't remember the street where that's sewing is or something. We've had an accident there. Kanawha, yes. Same thing. You cannot see that light there. There's something smaller about I don't know if it's the older light fixture or what it is, but the Open Park one has kind of disappeared compared to the size of the Broadway light when you're traveling south.
A lot of people said that.
Yeah.
It's the T-bone there too, there's nothing intersecting there on the west side.
Right.
So if you're going south, you're not seeing that intersecting, there's no intersecting streets. You're like,
That's
yeah,
not exactly true.
So-
It's offset to Orchard Lane.
To Orchard,
And if you try to pull out of Orchard Lane to go north or south with the parked cars, it's,
Sure.
that is 100 times worse than coming westbound on Oakland Park onto High Street.
Sure.
So as Commissioner Lotta said, we'll have planning and development, do a presentation next month, and that will help guide our capital budget request, yes.
Can I say what I'm going to say?
Please do.
So, Liza, I guess, Liza emailed Brittany, and Brittany copied me. They have a slide deck prepared for overall traffic safety in Clintonville, crash vehicle and volume data, as well as next steps to help the community prioritize CIP requests. So they'll present initial findings in April, develop initial project concepts from feedback at the either April or May CAC meeting for CIP projects, and then present CIP recommendations in May, so we can draft resolution from that.
Okay.
Looks like it'd be pretty interesting here.
So come back next month. Thank you. Chair Hardwick, zoning and variance.
First item on the agenda is a demolition permit waiver of the 60-day waiting period. Because this is a whole house, it has to go through the normal process. I did follow the rules and sent the CC'd into the historic society designate. Probably should reach out and make sure that he really wants to be the one to continue to get those notices. But the rules say that for these, we send out the notice just in case. I don't think it's historic, but maybe they do. It was recommended approval. This is only about waiving the waiting period. If they want to wait 60 days, they can tear it down anyway. It was recommended approval 8-0.
Any questions from commissioners for Chair Hardwick? Is the applicant here?
Yes, Ted Rapasky, Rapasky Waste Services, applying for the waiver on behalf of the client. I can answer any questions anyone has about the process.
Any questions from commissioners for Commissioner Wyman?
Is there any type of hardship here, or is this just, we want to speed the project up?
My client is the builder. Their client has not finalized plans for what they're going to rebuild. They want to see the lot empty, I think, to visualize and finalize those plans. It's at the corner of Olentangy Boulevard and Winthrop. It's the lot's kind of buried in the corner. It's I don't think of any hardship. It's more just to get their process of getting their permitting and their approvals for the new build done.
See, I think that your commissioners can vote out for whatever reason they want to. My understanding of the purpose of this rule wasn't so much a variance process was they used to be able to just tear it down right away. And it was to give the community a chance to get a voice in if they saw a problem, or if they wanted to try to preserve it, or wanted to try to save fixtures from it, those kind of things. But again, it's your vote, you get to vote however you want, or whatever stance that you want to vote in.
Any other commissioner questions? Yeah, question from the neighbor?
Yes, I'm Mr. Wilkins. So the property that they're talking about is 3755 Olentangy. I believe, and to my knowledge, was this house here. And I think it was listed for $725,000. This has a supported backyard, but I don't know why there's so much movement on tearing down. I didn't see nothing wrong with the property, as houses are not being built no more. It seems like what I hear here, he wants to just tear it down to bring a new development. I do think this can be saved and repurposed for a new occupancy of owner. This has woods. He will have to explain what is he planning on putting in. I mean, what I see here is a property that's not really in bad shape. Needs a few little touches up. I do believe this is the parcel here, and it sits back in a area that has a lot of trees, but he's not explaining what is he planning on putting in. What's the timeline? Why does he want this gone? I can see if it was a vacant and abandoned property, torn up windows, siding off the wall, but I cannot see a perfect house being demolished. First of all, I'm Mr. Lieutenant George Wilkins, coming all the way from Northland area. And I'm a very strong passion of my neighborhood to see a house that had been demolished for no reason. I have watched my community, blocks of houses been torn down, not in this kind of condition, but in a worse condition. And so I just don't understand why we're moving on fast demolition. You know, residents that live in that area should have some input. But I don't live in that area. I would love to see this scene. I don't know the history of it, but I know the annual taxes on this property is $4,008 something. And so this can be utilized for some purpose of use. I don't want to see a vacant land or not something you redevelop in that area. Thank you, please.
Thank you for your comments, and thanks for clearly doing lots of homework on that topic too. Appreciate it. Before we address that, there was a public notice period for neighbors, correct? That's not for demos.
No, that's not for this. These can go, because it's a 60-day waiting period only, these can go on the agenda up to 24 hours before the committee meeting.
Okay, thank you.
But it was on my email I sent out to folks.
Thank you. Did you want to address the public comment?
Yes, what you can see in the picture looks like a nice house. If you go inside and you look around the outside of the eaves, there's a lot of rot. It would take substantial investment to get the property to a good quality position. The person that purchased the property is a neighbor, lives on Winthrop, likes that lot. Going through a similar thing with the house for my parents. We didn't demolish the entire house, but we did gut the entire thing because the older construction, the rooms were too small. It was just easier to gut it out and build it back to a comfortable level. You mentioned the price that was paid for the property, and yes, that is true. And I think that, again, a similar amount of money will be spent in building a new home, but it is imminent. They're going to build a new single-family home on that property. Because if the builder's been hired, the builder secure our services.
Thank you.
Yes.
you say your question a little bit louder, please?
Oh, no, I was just saying, I was
She asked
saying,
if it
it's
was
gonna
a
be a
new
prettier, newer
Oh.
home, that's all.
Okay. I just didn't want to miss anything up here. Great. Any other questions?
Are y'all gonna work to preserve the trees when possible?
No trees will be touched, other than there's a few 6-inch and smaller trees close to the structure that will have to come out. There are some nice big trees on that property that will not be touched.
Any additional questions? Yes, sir, one more.
You know, I'm, and again, I'm a very passionate person. And I would say this, okay, and I have watched the city had demolished, investors coming into my area and bulk run down property. And so I advise you can reach out to some of these investors who would be glad to take on a project like that. And so I have seen the city have just demo, and some people had coming in and so neighbors and buy houses like that. And so why not create jobs for these young people out there to giving them a trade skill to learn? Because what the problem that this young lady said, you got in trouble with youth development or people getting in trouble with the law, why not just turn that house over to the city and having some young people to work on and bring that back to life? That's another option, you know what I'm saying? Because there's not a lot of options out here for the city to do trade skills like that, carpentry work and manual labor for that. And so that's what I would like to see in the state of Ohio here, to bring back some of the old houses. I can give you one prime example in my neighborhood, because I live in Arlington, in Genesee Avenue. They just bought a house for $38,000. And it was built over 125 years ago. Today, I'm watching them putting that stuff back together. There was another house in Genesee Avenue, 1300, where it was built in 1900s, totally trashed. They gutted and rehabbed it and sold it to somebody for $330,000. And so I cannot see, we are constantly tearing down homes and not reusing them for a purpose, because the city's built all of these massive apartment complexes. And why not take this annual opportunity where you can give somebody an opportunity in this? You know, I love this house, but just to see it go ungodly, it's a shame. Thank you for my time.
Thank you for your comments. I think Commissioner Lloyd Osborne has a comment.
I have just a couple comments on property rights, home ownership as a real estate broker. We have somebody investing in this neighborhood, a neighbor who loves the lot, wants to improve. They have the right to do that. They've purchased this land. We have we're avoiding having them wait for 2 months, but otherwise there's no restriction to them tearing this property down. And as the homeowner, they have the right to do that. On my property, I've restored an old carriage house. It's taken me years. It would have been cheaper to tear it down and start over, but I chose to keep the historic building. Whoever owns the land, if they don't need a variance, they have the right to do whatever they want with that property. And I think that we need to honor their request.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any final comments? Go ahead and vote. Commissioner Moritz.
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Commissioner Saucer. Yes. Commissioner Heigley.
Yes.
Commissioner Lotta.
Yes.
Commissioner Lee Osborne.
Yes.
Commissioner Wyman.
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. Congratulations on your project, and thank you very much for participating in public comment this evening.
Next item is, we have a proposed screening form for auxiliary dwelling units. The main purpose of this is to ask questions that we've ended up asking, a lot of numbers that we asked, so just to get an idea, the proportion and the scale to the rest of the property. And so that we understand, we thought it wasn't useful to say, how are you going to use this as a part, it's what do you want to use this for, but just talk about the specific amenities that are relevant to understanding that. So bath, shower, sink, toilet, stove. They can always put no if they want, if they don't, unknown if they want to. But and also just to talk about parking, if they're asking for a parking reduction, how are they going to deal with that? And Michael Hoff is the one who got this together, so let's share.
Share our appreciation.
And what I ask for, if you accept this form, is to do do a resolution approving it so that when I send it out to people, I can tell them this is the commission's form.
Or are you voting on that this evening? So I want to propose an addition.
Okay.
You can, it's your vote, you can, any way to make it better. In the end, this has to help you as well as us.
Just procedurally, I don't know that we need a formal resolution. I think we could probably just move to adopt the screening form, because the resolution has the waiting period. We have to read it on 1 month and then vote the following.
Okay, then I used the wrong word.
No, that's okay.
Motion to adopt.
I think as long as we can talk through any additions tonight and just move to adopt it, that'd be fantastic.
So in section 1B, where you ask about the height of the proposed ADU, my biggest concern on approving, let's say, a 2-story ADU and the house out front is a ranch. So I'm always asking every time we have this conversation, what's the height of the primary residence? Because I think it's relative to the height of what we're gonna approve.
I feel like we discussed that the last time we talked about this form too. I remember this coming up.
I should. Okay, that makes it better.
Okay.
I think it was during a conversation of an ADU and
That's what it was. Yeah.
I'm asking it every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it might as well be on there.
Any other questions or additions from commissioners? Yeah, Commissioner Moritz.
So I remember from previous discussions that the issue of the kitchen was a major issue. So whether it's a full kitchen or not a full kitchen determines whether it's one thing or the other. But now the only reference to kitchen line is the stove. So it would not be better just to ask whether it's going to be a full kitchen or not full kitchen.
Well, what does full kitchen mean?
I forgot, but we had one of your colleagues come to talk about what the full kitchen was, and I thought I understood at that moment, but I cannot recall anymore what that was.
If it included a kitchen, it's considered a full, complete habitable space.
That's right. The kitchen could be a hot plate.
A hot plate, yeah.
or microwave.
So what would be the best way to ask whether there's a kitchen or not?
Cooking device?
You could ask for whether they have a hookup for a regular stoves, gas, and electric, which is different.
It's the stove piece, I think, is really important, and it's kind of silly when you think about it in the bigger picture that may be, because you can have everything but the stove and all the hookups for it, but that's what tips the scale one way or another. So that's why I think the stove is in this case relevant. It brings more clarity than, full kitchen is how you define that. Then you're gonna have to define that. And you'll get back to the same thing. You're full stove, like a stove, essentially.
So if there's no stove, but there's a microwave and a hot plate, then it's not a kitchen?
I think we're trying to make this useful if the city changes their mind again, so that we're not trying to ask them to put the applicants to put big picture city legal labels on it. We're trying to get the nitty gritty underneath the label. So if you can find it, I'm happy. If there's a better way to express that, the form should say it. We could.
Oh, just on the setbacks, are you asking for the proposed setbacks where the variance is taking place? Maybe there's a box saying this is the existing setback, or this is the proposed setback, or this is something about that it meets code already where there's no variance required.
Maybe.
It seems kind of vague.
Or no, I think how about doing a second section, one section of that for pre-project, one for post-project.
Because pre-project in Clintonville doesn't mean you meet code.
Right, but we're also trying to, but I think if they're not gonna meet code, that's gonna be expressed in the variance. I think neighbors care most, is it gonna be closer, the same, or farther away?
Yeah.
So if you you gave a comparison of numbers, you could say there's a 3 foot setback now, it's gonna be 3 feet. If the city requires 5, then there's gonna be a variance. But then you have the information to know that it's 3 to 3, or it's going 3 to 1, or 1 to 3.
Yeah, there's that Calumet project that was here a month or two ago, where the neighbor was concerned how close the garage was getting, so they agreed to move it, another 6 inches, and then that neighbor seemed to be happy about it.
So can you just clarify what you're proposing, Commissioner Lana, that we?
I think existing setbacks and proposed setbacks. Now, if you're not doing anything in front, that just stays the same, right? Most likely, you're not doing anything in the front. I don't think.
Oh, we had the one where we
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
The
a little different.
porch.
Yeah, closing the porch. Does that change the setback though?
Yes, it was livable space, so I think it did.
Enclosing a porch, yeah, enclosing a porch, an unenclosed porch doesn't count as, that's how far from the right of way, but if it's enclosed, then it
Yeah.
counts.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so just existing setbacks and what the proposed ones are. And if there's no change, then we can just easily see that there's no change to that.
And they could just write 5, 5, 4, 4.
Yeah, or just no change.
And if there's some weird property line, then they can describe that.
Yeah.
My only addition would be just, if perhaps at the end, if there's, I feel like it's always good to have a space where there could be other notes around something that's not captured here that might make the project unique that needs described. Like an oddly shaped lot, or.
And hardship's no longer an issue, is that right? So,
I can't remember whether hardship was the standard for a council variance. But the council variances are legislative, so that's they're their own weird. Because the council variance really, in some ways, isn't a budget variance. It's now the law. It's not like BZA. BZA is altering what the law requires of the specific property. There, it's council variances.
so the Calumet one that we did most recently, that was a council variance.
I think I can put some language together. Let me put some language together. Think about that language together for the next meeting. We have some if you have any other feedback. We do have 2 ADUs coming up this month. I'll probably just send it out with the changes that have been proposed today. I told them that I would get it to them this weekend.
Yeah.
The ADU is a use variance, which I don't necessarily think hardship will come into play, but I think what we often see is things like setbacks. I think we often see variances requested for setbacks, and I think that's where maybe hardship might come into play.
I just know it's been a question at the committee before, like, if they did have a hardship, they were supposedly approving that. I guess my next question, I mean, it's an accessory dwelling being, you're living there, I'm assuming, or just working there, or how are we defining dwelling? I mean, why do we care if there is a stove or not a stove? I mean,
The
again, property rights, it's like, it's your dwelling unit.
Yeah.
Why do we need to know if there's 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms, or if there's, a bath, or if it's just a shower, or any of these, is this just too much?
Some of it is people want to know: is it going to be a separate full apartment that they could just rent out and become literally a second dwelling unit, or is it a mother-in-law suite that's detached from the house? And sometimes that could matter to a commissioner, and it does matter in terms of zoning, because you have to give special, when it crosses the line to being a second residence, you get a whole new level of variances you need, because then you have two dwelling units on the same.
Yeah, the occupancy, essentially, what that comes down to. So if you have additional occupancy there, you're gonna have like somebody who live in that unit separate from the main, right? So you put that stove in there, somehow that's magical.
I don't know, I'm thinking mother-in-law still have a stove, but I would hope, yeah.
But I think it was the way the city of Columbus was categorizing these
Yeah.
separate units, of whether you were your office or another home, and I forget the names.
we have with a full dwelling unit.
But we've had situations where it was a family member, you know, they're building it
Yes.
for a family member, but, you know, the minute the property changes hands, you know, who's to say a family member's living back there or not living back there, so I don't know, understand the two different designations, either you're letting somebody live back there or you're not.
Does the accessory dwelling unit get its own address?
If it's a second dwelling.
Would that be then the delineation between a mother-in-law suite or an office versus an apartment? Because it has its own address, you know?
Well, I think
2621B.
it's decided before that, whether if it has a stove, then
Then
it gets a half address.
I think some of that, in the end, what I end up doing is, when the city sends us the proposal, they say, at least for this month, this is what we need to make this, these are the variances they need to make the project that they want happen legally. And I'm trying to have this form be adaptable to give us underlying information, not to give legal conclusions in the end. Sometimes people write and say, do I need a variance for this? And I say, I don't know.
So the goal of this screening form then is to prepare the applicant for success in the process.
Or it's to give neighbors an idea of what's going on.
That's a great goal, yeah.
Yeah, and the form works great for that.
Yeah.
Definitely. I just see it possibly evolving as definitions become more clear. Yeah, to us maybe.
Yeah,
Or-
maybe
or
it just has to be
rules
flexible,
change.
yeah.
So.
But this could be changed, that's the thing with the forms or rules, you can change them in one meeting and say, now you're gonna use a different form.
Sure.
That's,
So as a commission, are we prepared to adopt this form for current use with the understanding we'll revisit as needed, as long as we add height of primary residence and delineate between existing and proposed setbacks? Commissioner Miller?
I have one recommendation.
Sure.
One thing we always discuss when it's come before us is if the immediate neighbors have been notified or if the project has been discussed. So sometimes it feels a little too late by the time we ask that here. So I'm wondering if we can just ask that question on this form, if the immediate adjacent neighbors have been contacted. Just put it in their mind.
Yeah, that's not the form I'm gonna ask anything.
Yeah.
although I have to say, in my initial email to them, I warned them about that and say, when they get this notice in the mail, they're going to think the worst, so you might as well go talk to them.
Right.
That's in my, I have a form email that I use because I want to make sure I tell everyone the same thing. I could circulate that again. I think I've circulated it before, and I can change. I try to make a balance with that of turning it into a treatise versus, but also giving them everything to know about the immediate adjacent neighbors.
And then just to clarify, this is not required, right?
Right.
No, we requested of them, but then we say we don't have the. I always tell them, someone on the committee or commission may want to see this, so you probably should do it. And it's possible that no one will look at it, but also, we ask these questions to so many people, and they don't have the numbers ready. And I don't like ambushing people, and this is kind of a no ambush form.
That's a great call.
I do also like that it's one page. I think that's a good goal to keep it.
So I can add, that he discusses the immediate adjacent neighbors. That's a good second reminder. Just say yes or no, and that. And I'll see if there's anything else to add to that. But normally, if they're asking for hardships, we all know these aren't really hard. None of these are true hardships. And if you want a true hardship or that's legally required, then you just say no. Yeah.
Great. Any other discussion among commissioners? Great. I move that we adopt this form with the question around contacting immediately adjacent neighbors, height of primary residence, and setback on existing and proposed to be clarified. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Great. Thank you so much, and please tell Michael thank you as well for working on this.
Thanks, and he was reelected as vice chair.
Excellent.
Now, to the rules, most of these are clerical changes. I list instead of describing when the meeting meets, I just list out our dates for people, especially since a couple of them are gonna be moved, because I don't think anyone wants to have a meeting on December 24th or that Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I did add, this is that because I went to the city's training just before I did this. They took the special meeting should have at least 24 hours notice, so I added with 24 hours notice to the phrase that says for extraordinary cause, the committee chair may call a special meeting. But just put the 24 hours notice in there, make it clear. Just it's a type to get rid of in order to change it to 2. The reason I got rid of this getting rid of regularly scheduled is there have been times when meetings have been moved, and I thought we could just say these apply to the meetings. Because then that's not really a regularly scheduled meeting anymore, it's been moved. But I didn't want that, I wanted that to be clear. Eliminating the provision that says that we may notify the community early if we want to. Well, there's nothing to stop us from doing that anyway. So I thought that seemed like that there was no purpose in having that paragraph, and that paragraph in here should have its purpose. Change 20 matters or change variance application of the demolition waiting period, waiver request, and talking about the order, we changed that to matters requiring a vote and public comment because we had a special use permit and that wasn't listed, so just give the general description. Here's one that's I can see reasonable people could disagree on. F, which is this? Oh, because things got moved.
Oh, sorry.
F, public comment will be, this is at the top, at the bottom of page 4. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per participant. That's saying we can change that limit. I think that is I think that might be, is that last year? I think that's last year. Did I send you the wrong one?
Sure is.
I send the commissioner the wrong one? Sent out this past weekend, I believe.
Yep, I got it. Sorry about that.
Okay. We're at the bottom of page 4 now. The reason I got you. I thought set an expectation for 3 minutes because most of the time if someone talks for more than 3 minutes, they're not helping their case anymore. But I've never held a strict time where I cut people off exactly. But so it's 3 minutes, that sets an expectation, but it can be changed to circumstance warrant. The whole purpose of these meetings is to give people a chance to have their say, and I don't think I've ever had someone leave a meeting and say they haven't had a chance to have their say. But I thought that was just a good limit to start with. Then here's the other thing. I didn't want to change what I had for H. I just sent Brittany, I just sent you an email with a different proposal for H because I was reading this committee chair will enforce standards of public meeting conduct. I was looking at what those standards were. Those were really designed for commission meetings. They talk things about public comment at the end that aren't part of what this committee does. And it's also, they called it decorum, not conduct. So I want to change, this is what I propose changing it to. The committee chair will enforce any standards of public meeting decorum recommended by the city to the extent they are consistent with these rules. That way people don't come and say that, and say, oh, now we have a right to talk about deer in our backyard, even though it has nothing to do with the committee's agenda. That's your job, that's your job, not our job. And then no motion to table an application will be, let's say approved instead of entertained over the objection of the applicant, because it makes no sense to say you can't even consider it. So yeah, those are all the proposed changes.
Questions, comments from commissioners? Neighbors? I appreciate how thorough this is. Do we, I'm sorry, process-wise, do we vote to approve this or?
Yes, these are not the rules until you say they are.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the zoning and variance rules proposed tonight?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
okay for the minutes, Commissioner Morris? All those in favor of approving the updated zoning variance rules, aye?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thanks so much, appreciate it. And Ms. Lewis, Columbia Gas.
Hey y'all, it's almost time, 12 minutes, and we're out of here. So, Lee Lewis, Columbia Gas, Public Affairs. We've been actively working in the community. I've been actively listening. I get a lot of emails, phone calls, text messages, you name it, I'm going to be here. But things that I just want to touch on today is, and these are the concerns that I've heard from the community. Number one, when are you guys getting out? We're sick of you. You've been here a long time. We're just ready for you to go. So work will be complete June, and then from June we'll start that full restoration. So now let's talk about restoration, because that's a big, big topic, right? The city of Columbus tells us what we're obligated to do. They have the final say-so in what that looks like. So right now our plan is the center of the road to the curb. We understand that right now the curb has sandstone, but we also understand that Clintonville is not considered a historic district. So right now, as it is planned, we will replace everything that we've touched, anything that we've damaged, we will restore to its full beauty. But understanding, right now it's gonna be concrete one side, sandstone on the other. The community on Tulane has made it very clear that's not good enough. I understand that that's not good enough, but that final say-so will come from the city of Columbus. So I have made a promise to reach out to the city of Columbus, and I'm so glad they're over here to the left-hand side. They all know me very well. Based on the meeting that I had tonight with Tulane, they will be reaching out to the high people above me, so that's the city council, members throughout the city of Columbus, to just reiterate, we understand what the standard is, but that's not good enough for us. And based on all of those conversations, we'll come back to the table and determine what that looks like. Weber sites, we did get rid of that last contractor. You should notice that both of those sites have been cleared. We have 2 meetings at the end of the month, 3/25 and 3/31, just for those residents to tell me what it is they would like to be done. I've spoken to our legal team to see what's really feasible, but they're understanding the liability aspect, people that can come loiter, all of the things that are taken into account when you talk about empty lots. From what I hear, most residents would just like for us to maintain those spaces until construction begins. But I'm not gonna make that call until I've actually listened to all of the residents, and then we'll tally up what that decision looks like. We'll take it back to the team, we'll bring it to you all, and then we'll move forward with that decision. Something else is signage. It's a constant complaint about the signage being inaccurate, so I'm constantly working with our construction team to make sure that the signage is updated. But what I would like you all to understand, it's a flowing 30 days. So if it says today that we'll be done on March 13th, March 14th, it should be updated to say we'll be there for another 30 days until that conclusion, which is slated for June. But it is a work in progress. So I'll continue to work with the construction team to just try to get it right. And then I met with the Green Spot team last week just to continue to listen to see what's important to Clintonville, because I care. And then tonight I did get some asks when it came to the trees, but there are no more trees to be cut down. We're done. It's just maintaining them. And then we are working with JTS Tree, and he's, been doing a lot of work with trees for a really long time, partnering with the city of Columbus, the Department of Forestry, just making sure that it's right. And if it's not right, you tell me, and it'll become right. So those are the big call outs. Again, we've never done something like this to this magnitude. Generally, we come into spaces, we're there for a week and we leave, but we've been here for quite some time. So it's just at a point where it's a really, really dense space, really big pipe going in the ground, a lot of trucks, a lot of noise, a lot of shaking, it's a lot of things that I wish we could just blink our eyes and make it better. But it takes time.
Seems like you've been here since before COVID.
I know, and the thing is, so there was a disconnect, because Luca came a lot, right? He had a lot of conversations, but Tulane didn't understand the impact, because a lot of the emphasis was on those regulator stations. Guess what? They're not happening right now. So we talked about things that aren't going to be happening until 2027, but what's happening in 2024 and 25 kind of, it was out there, but I don't know that it was a clear understanding. This is different from the work that we did previously. We're about to be here, and it's going to be a lot different. And so I took that back as a lesson learned going into like the next phases of this project, because if there's a gap in time and there's only one emphasis on one part of the project, then the other parts of the community don't really understand what's to come until we come banging on your street saying no parking. And we're there for 6 months. So that alone has caused frustration.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things you could do in the future is alert the residents as to the actual duration and take into account, make it like a conservative estimate, rather than saying, "I will be in and out of your block in a month," but it's not.
No, I heard.
And I understand because of the difficulties of an old urban site and the things you find underground and slow you down, and things that you don't have reported or can't.
But it was
there's no
never going to
record
be a month.
I know, but it really should. That was kind of the impression I got. Was it was like we're just gonna go block to block real quick, put this thing in, but it's not.
And it's like 6 months to 6 months to 6 months per block. I took all that feedback from your great neighbors. They're not so nice over email, but once we talk, they love me, and so it just takes that. And I've called this out. I am working to translate a lot of that technical stuff into just normal how I talk, right? And I talk in a different way than most people. So it's a lot of disconnect in how I'm translating, and that's an opportunity for me. So be patient with me as I figure it out.
Thank you. And we are being asked to clear the room here in a couple minutes. Are there any additional comments from Commissioner? Yeah, Commissioner Lee Osborne.
I have one comment. As a group, I think that we need to stand behind the neighbors on Tulane, and we need to request from the city that curbs are restored, matching curbs restored.
I did tell them to add you on all the emails.
As a commission, I think that we need to get behind the expectation of the aesthetics of how this is put back together. So as
Thank you.
an agenda item for next month or whatever, but
Talk about that next month. Absolutely. Any other commissioner comments or questions? Any additional comments from the public?
Is the meeting on the house on Weber, about the house on Weber in that lot, is that still tomorrow from 2 to 4?
No, I need your email. I sent out, that was very big. I was trying to do too much. It's okay, because I had to talk to legal to figure out what I could do before I took it to the court.
Okay.
I'll give you.
I did want to note, because I came in late, I failed to acknowledge that Commissioner Nutter had an excused absence tonight, so we can make sure that's excused in the minutes. Our next meeting will be April 3rd, 7 p.m. in this room. Thanks so much. If you're able to move your chair to the back, that'd be really helpful. Thank you.